worked with Island, I've worked with Little Mix and Ollie Murs and all these One Direction, all these great pop acts. I think if the younger version of me was to see who I am now, the younger version of me wouldn't believe me. From 13 to maybe 18 was just like organised chaos. My dad called me and he said to me, there's this TV show that I want you to do. It's called Wayne Rooney Street Striker and I've signed you up for it.
The winner of the Coke Zero Street Striker is Travis.
There was a lot of talk about me within the academies. And I ended up getting injured in a training game and it just ruined that whole momentum. I realised that there was certain family struggles. I started leaning towards more like the streets. I was 13, I actually got introduced to the drug game properly. Then I got into more like robbing drug dealers as well. And that's eventually what led me to go to jail anyway. The judge was just like, considering the severity of everything, we're not gonna give you bail. They just put me in cuffs and said, right, we're gonna take you to Felton now. I grew up with my mum, my sister Sabrina, my little sister Hallie and my other big brother Eddie, but I do have obviously other brothers and sisters. So Jermaine, we have the same dad, we grew up together, but he ended up becoming the Jermaine Beckford, very successful footballer. He done very well playing for Leeds United, for Leicester, for Bolton, for Everton, and was one of the first people from, I would say, West London that really broke through, that everyone knew, to make it to that level. So football for me growing up was just everything. So we would go to the cage in my local, like on my estate, and we would play football every day, on the weekends, all day, you know, and that was our kind of space where everyone loved to just link up and just express themselves, chat, you know, and just be free, so to speak. When I got to my early teens, and I realised that there was certain family struggles, whether it was financial, whether it was through just frustrations in general within the household, I started leaning towards more like the streets. The first time I actually got introduced to the drug game properly, as in like distributing drugs or buying intent to supply basically, I was 13. I remember it, I was at my friend's house. His family were known for like selling drugs basically. And I was just complaining to him about being broke. He was just saying to me like, look, you know, everyone rates you and they like you, but if you want to get involved, you can. My mum couldn't work, she was looking after my sister. My dad was living in Manchester. You got the peer pressure where everyone around you is either doing quite well, like financially, you can see they've got money or they look a certain type of way. And I always wanted to feel like fresh, I always wanted to feel like I could be my own boss. I'm Travis Beckford, 16, from Ealing, West London.
Travis earned his place in the competition with an impressive trial.
My dad called me and he said to me, there's this TV show that I want you to do. It's called Wayne Rooney Street Striker and I've signed you up for it. One, I didn't really know if I'll be good at doing something like that. I was quite shy in a sense of I didn't want anyone to see my face because of all of the things I was doing before. My dad just convinced me to do it and I was doing all these tests, all these trials, all of these things that were putting me through my paces and they ended up saying to me, you're going to be part of this show that's going to be aired. After that, I was like, wow, this is going to be mad. Like, I can't believe this is happening to me.
The winner of the Coke Zero Street Striker is Travis.
That was when my life definitely, it changed a lot. There was a lot of talk about me within the academies, and Jermaine said to me, I want you to come up and play for Leeds. I started training with like the 18s, the reserves, and I ended up getting injured in a training game by the goalkeeper, and it just ruined that whole momentum. And I remember leaving thinking to myself like that was the kind of the main shot I had to really break through. It was the same kind of cycle again, like with my sister not being very well, my mum's very stressed, we don't have much money. So it's all of these little thoughts in the back of my mind start creeping up again. That was what got me back on the streets fully. I was like, if I can't play football, I'm just gonna make music and I'm gonna trap. And that was what I was doing. And then I got into more like robbing drug dealers as well. So the night that I got arrested, I knew straight away that I was gonna go to jail. And I said to my codie at the time, we was in a station for a few days, and I said, when I managed to see him, I was like, we're definitely gonna go to jail, we're not gonna get bail or nothing. And we went back to West Ealing Magistrates Court, and the judge, it was quite quick. The judge was just like, considering the severity of everything, we're not going to give you bail, we're going to remand you. And I just knew. I remember looking across the room to see my mum, and she was crying, and a few of my friends were there. And I just felt like very small. I felt very powerless, and they just put me in cuffs and said, right, we're gonna take you to Felton now. So I got sentenced 2 days after my 19th birthday in Isleworth Crown Court. And they said, right, now this is your term. They gave us a longer period of time. Initially it was like 10 years, and then it got dropped down to 6 years and 8 months. And they just said serve 3 out of that. So I obviously pled guilty, just got some time off. But Isis was a different world. When I was there, I saw everything in there, just name it. I was seeing stabbings, I was seeing people who were trying to kill themselves. I saw one guy in his cell, he smashed his TV on the floor and started putting all the glass in his mouth and chewing it and trying to swallow it. And I even had to press this bell thing and call the gov to come get him. And like, it was just madness. Like, there was so much, so many problems in there, so many different gangs who had problems with each other as well. I didn't really pay too much mind to it, really. I was more concerned about like my sister's well-being. I knew that she could pass away in any day, because she was in hospital for long periods of time with her illness. I was trying to think of ways like how I can become a better person. When I was in Isis, I wanted to come home and make music and be within the music industry, because I knew at that point, okay, I'm gonna come home at 21, 22, and the football thing is kind of dead now. Unless I want to do like coaching or be in that space, I'm not going to make it as a professional footballer to the level that I wanted. That's when I met Jason Mitchell, and he came to the wing, and he was talking to me about National Prison Radio, and he was saying, you know, you would put together these shows, you would be the person who would be the host, the presenter, you would interview people and all that kind of stuff. And I really liked the idea of that. And he said, if you were to do it, you can be on this course for as long as you want. You could just be like the main person for Isis. I managed to get to grips with being like a host, and I was interviewing people. I interviewed the governor of the jail, and then I met DJ Target. He came in and we spoke about the future of the music industry, and he was talking to me about it changing to be more streaming. And like Spotify and these things hadn't arrived yet. Jason come up to me, he knocked on my door, opened the flat, and he was like, I've just got in touch with the BBC, and Doreen Lawrence really respects what you're doing. They want to give you an internship when you come home. And I'm reading this letter, thinking to myself, this is my opportunity now, when I get released, to really take everything I learned from National Prison Radio to apply it in real life. And then when they came through and said, right, well, we're going to give you the advanced apprenticeship scheme opportunity, and it's going to be paid, and it was like an emotional moment for me, because I was like, wow, everything I was doing on a lead up, like for the last 2.5 years, has led me to this point now. And now that I'm home, I've got at least 1 year to just really go in. So I was working at the one show. I got an email randomly from Sony, from Dougie Bruce, and he said, look, we've got an internship that's going to be starting next year. I was like, cool, this is my opportunity to get into music. So when I did all my interview processes over Christmas, they got back to me and said, yeah, you're going to start mid-January at Epic Records. And that was my first entry point into the game. And I haven't really looked back since, really. I've managed to work in various different labels. I've worked with Island, I've worked with Disturbing London, I've worked at Modest Management, which obviously has Little Mix and Ollie Murs and all these One Direction, all these great pop acts. Moving forward from being at Epic, when the label folded later that year, that was another shock, because I had everyone saying to me, you know, you should have stayed at the BBC. You know, my mum was like, you should have stayed there, now you don't have a job. But I knew at that point, I was like, I'm not going to put myself in a position anymore where something can get taken away from me, or the rug can get pulled from underneath my feet, because it's happened a few times in music, it's happened a few times in television. And I said, I'm going to start my own platform. So I was thinking about it with a friend of mine called Ash, and we came up with The Future Is, which is a platform that will help young people to get educated in the music industry and learn from like panel speakers. You know, we would invite down some of the top people in their field, in their space, and they would just talk about their journey. They'll talk about how they got into the game, and then it turned into, well, I'm an A&R, I've got all of these connects. Why don't we start putting on for these young artists to get in the rooms with more established writers and producers? And then other record labels started hitting me up like, this is really dope, can we get involved, can we help, can you do something with us? And we worked with Warner's and Two-Tone and Motown Records, and yeah, I mean, we've then gone on to do brand partnerships, and we've worked with TikTok and Nike, and we've been in GQ magazine, we've been in Music Week, Music Business Worldwide, we've been in Complex, and all these sick little looks that we've got, all off the back of just wanting to give and help kind of create a new ecosystem. I never look at myself as someone who's like an influencer or anything like that. I would just think, oh, that was a bad time in my life, I try and make the best of it. But it is actually helping to create more internships and apprenticeships. And I spoke to one of the top people at NPR, and he said to me that Sony are now more open to collaborate with National Prison Radio because of your story. The BBC have opened up more internships and apprenticeships for ex-prisoners because of your story. You're like the person who was the first to break through it. And when I hear things like that, it does make me feel like, raw. So I can like affect things in a positive way, and it's something I really want to continue to do.